There are moments in life when everything just falls apart, when the weight of failure feels like it's crushing your chest, and you wonder if you'll ever be able to stand tall again. I remember mine like it was yesterday. I was 32, working hard but earning barely enough to support my wife and children. The bills piled up, the pressure grew unbearable, and one night after another disappointing week in sales, I just collapsed. I dropped to my knees in the living room, tears flowing uncontrollably. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I kept apologizing, ashamed that I couldn't be the provider I promised I'd be. But then something unexpected happened. My 9-year-old son walked over, rested his tiny hand on my shoulder, and said softly, "It's okay, Daddy. We still love you." And in that single moment, everything inside me shifted. My son wasn't judging me. He wasn't keeping score. He simply offered love, pure, unconditional love. It cracked open something inside me. I realized that the harshest voice wasn't the world's, it was my own. For years, I had been tearing myself apart from the inside out, calling myself a failure, feeding myself lies that I wasn't good enough, smart enough, or strong enough to make anything of my life. But here was my son, reminding me that I still mattered, even in my lowest moment. That's when I understood. If I wanted to change my life, I had to stop being my own enemy. I had to forgive myself, not just for failing, but for believing I was unworthy because of it. I needed to make a personal apology, not to my family, but to the man in the mirror. That night, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, looked myself in the eye, and whispered, "I'm sorry," not out of pity, but out of power. I said sorry for all the years I let fear lead. Sorry for giving my doubts more attention than my dreams. Sorry for allowing other people's opinions to shape my identity. I made a promise. From this day forward, I'm going to fight for me. That apology was more than words. It was a turning point. It was the moment I dropped the anchor of shame and started rowing toward a future I believed in. I didn't suddenly become successful the next morning. It wasn't some magical transformation, but for the first time, I had a clean slate and a mission to never abandon myself again. You might be in your own living room moment right now, exhausted, ashamed, feeling like life has buried you too deep to rise. But let me tell you this, you don't need the world's permission to rise. You need your own. Start by saying, "I'm sorry and I forgive myself." That's not weakness, that's power. Before we continue, take one bold step. Drop the word reborn in the comments if you're ready to make this comeback your personal apology to yourself. Let's begin again from the inside out. The apology was just the beginning. What followed was the hardest part, proving to myself that I meant it, that I wouldn't slip back into the old habits of self-blame and self-sabotage, that I would no longer be the person who gave up on his potential before even trying. I had a mountain to climb, and the only thing I carried with me was a decision. I will not give up on myself again. I had bridges to rebuild, trust to earn back, and a future to design brick by brick. Every day brought resistance. The temptation to quit was constant, but every time that voice returned, the one that used to whisper, "You're not enough," I reminded it, "I've already apologized, and I'm already becoming." I didn't hustle for approval anymore. I worked to keep a vow I made to myself on the hardest night of my life. That vow became sacred. Progress didn't look like giant leaps. It looked like showing up consistently, fixing what I could, owning what I couldn't, and celebrating the smallest wins, because each one proved my comeback was real. Each step forward became proof that forgiveness is not just a feeling. It's a foundation. It's fuel. Eventually, something strange started happening. My life began to shift. People noticed the change in my energy, my focus, my consistency. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was rising. Opportunities began appearing that once seemed impossible. My business began to grow. My relationship with my wife deepened. My children looked at me differently. And it all traced back to that one moment where I stopped punishing myself and started believing in myself. You see, real transformation isn't about shouting affirmations in the mirror. It's about choosing every day to keep showing up. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, it's about honoring that sacred promise, "I will never abandon me again." That kind of commitment becomes a silent roar inside you. a force that drives your steps forward, no matter how long the road or how heavy the past. And here's the truth. I've made 1,000 mistakes. I've failed in ways that used to paralyze me with shame. But once I apologized to myself, truly apologized, I stopped carrying those mistakes like chains. I started using them as stepping stones. Every failure became feedback. Every regret became a redirection. If you've ever felt like it's too late for you, I want to challenge that belief right now. It's not too late. You're not too broken. You're not too far gone. You're simply one decision away from everything changing. It starts with a personal apology. It grows with action, and it lives in every moment you refuse to give up. Now let's get honest. What's really holding you back? It's not your lack of talent, not your past, not your circumstances. It's the stories you keep telling yourself, the guilt you haven't released, the shame you've held on to like a secret identity, and until you let go of those, they'll keep controlling your life from the inside out. Most people live trapped inside invisible cages built from their own judgment. They keep reliving mistakes, punishing themselves daily with regret. I should have done more. I wasted too much time. I messed up too badly. But let me tell you something, those chains, they're optional. You can put them down. You can walk free. But it starts with a choice. That's why a personal apology is so powerful, because it resets your relationship with you. You stop seeing yourself as broken or beyond repair, and you start seeing yourself as a work in progress with unlimited potential. Just like the young man I once met, $100,000 in debt, no job, drowning in despair. But what turned his life around wasn't a winning lottery ticket or some external rescue. It was a moment of clarity, a realization, I can't carry this anymore. He apologized to himself for the debt, the mistakes, the poor decisions, and he finally forgave the man in the mirror. That forgiveness didn't erase the debt overnight, but it gave him the power to stop running, to stop hiding, and to start doing. That's the moment your life begins again. Not when you get a second chance from the world, but when you give it to yourself. So what about you? What lies have you been believing? That you're too old to change? That you've wasted too many years? That you're not smart enough, strong enough, or worthy enough to rise? That ends now. That narrative is not yours unless you choose to keep repeating it. From this moment forward, you are free to write a new chapter, not because your past didn't happen, but because your future is still unwritten, and you are the author. Maybe you've told yourself that it's too late, that if you didn't start 5 years ago, you've already missed your chance. But what if that's the biggest lie of all? What if right now is the perfect time to begin? Let me tell you about a woman I met at one of my seminars. A 48-year-old single mother who had spent decades working in a job she hated. Her dream, to start her own business in landscaping. But she kept telling herself it was too late, that her time had passed. Then she heard this simple idea. Apologize to yourself for playing small, forgive yourself for waiting, and move forward like your future depends on it. Because it does. 3 months later, she walked out of that job and into a brand new life. Within a few years, she had a thriving business, a full staff, and a passion that lit her up again. You see, it doesn't matter how long you've waited. It only matters that you decide to stop waiting today. Every minute you spend punishing yourself for the past is a minute stolen from your future. You're not too late. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be to begin. I also met a man in his 60s. Retired, financially stable, but quietly broken inside. He had always wanted to be an artist, but he'd spent his entire life doing what others expected. He believed the lie that dreams have expiration dates, until one day he chose to forgive himself for listening to everyone but himself. He began painting daily, selling his work locally. Eventually, he got a call for a gallery showing 66 years old and just getting started. What changed? Not their age, not their resources, their mindset. They finally stopped treating themselves like the enemy. They chose to become their own ally, their greatest supporter, their most loyal believer. That can be you, but only if you make peace with where you are and who you've been. Your past is a teacher, not a prison. Your mistakes are data, not definitions. The comeback begins the moment you declare, I'm done holding myself back. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not when things calm down, not when you feel more ready. Now, right now, in this very moment, you get to say the words that change your life. I forgive myself. I'm done fighting me. I'm ready to rise. Say it again if you need to. Say it every day until it becomes a truth so deep it rewrites your very identity. This is not just motivation. It's transformation. Because when you make a comeback rooted in self-forgiveness, you stop needing permission from the world. You stop asking if you're worthy. You stop second-guessing your power. You already have it. You were born with it. That inner greatness was never gone. It was only buried under fear, shame, and old narratives. Once you drop the guilt, the criticism, the punishing perfectionism, you finally unlock the version of you who was always meant to lead, create, and thrive. You start speaking differently, walking differently, dreaming differently. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. So here's what I want you to do. Make that apology a vow. Not a temporary pep talk, but a lifelong contract with your higher self. A commitment that says, no matter how many times I fall, I will not abandon myself again. No matter how dark it gets, I'll never stop reaching for the light. That's what separates those who talk about change and those who actually live it. And from this moment forward, I want you to walk with a new fire in your chest. Not fueled by anger, not by regret, but by freedom. The freedom that comes from finally letting go of the heavy stories and walking forward light, clear, and powerful. You're not broken. You're not too late. You are becoming. And the world needs the version of you who's no longer hiding behind guilt, doubt, or fear. Now is the time, not to prove anything to anyone else, but to show yourself who you really are. Say it out loud. I forgive myself. I am ready, and I will never abandon me again. If this message stirred something inside you, drop the word unstoppable in the comments right now. Let that be your declaration to the world and to yourself. And if you're ready to keep rising, healing, and transforming into the best version of you, make sure to subscribe for more powerful messages like this. Tap that like button if you're choosing to never abandon yourself again. And turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of your personal comeback journey. Your story isn't over. It's just getting started. Let's write the greatest chapter yet together.